He is, which is a new, and also the CEO. It's a new generation, Commerce Layer. It's a new generation platform that brings a paradigm shift in the way of thinking e-commerce on a global scale. Commerce Layer was founded in 2017 by Filippo and Massimo Scardellato.
Correct.
Two developers who met while working at Gucci. I've heard of them. Very cool. They were tasked with replatforming the Gucci e-commerce website to create a more modern, digitally native shopping experience. The tools available that they were using to meet the business requirements were so inefficient that Filippo and Massimo decided to create Commerce Layer. Pretty much in real time. But if you got like housekeeping items, all participants are in listen only mode, so you don't need to worry about dogs barking or anything in the background or that mute button. This session is being recorded, just FYI. And please respect our community code of conduct, which you can look at gemstack.org/code of conduct and to get more details there. All right, let's do a quick poll. I would love to kind of get like a little bit of understanding of the audience from a composable perspective. So a poll question. So how familiar with the concept of composable commerce? Should have popped up with 4 answers. Please vote. Just love to get a sense of the experience of composable commerce out there in the audience. But in the meantime, Filippo, why don't you give us a quick background on yourself? I'd love to learn more what you guys did at Gucci and more importantly, what you guys have done since with Commerce Layer.
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, and thank you for the warm introduction, and hello to everybody today, and thanks for having me. Yeah, so real quick, you already said that I met my co-founder Massimo Scardellato in Gucci in 2011. It's quite a bit, and so we had that experience that was very important, but it was not just that. So at some point, yeah, we decided to create a commerce API, to create something different, because we were essentially tired to work with monolithic platforms, large or small, that claim to provide everything you need out of the box, at least that the reality is different. So yeah, we founded Commerce Layer in 2017, and now we are part of the headless composable ecosystem, and we are promoting this new approach, this new way of building e-commerce websites and experiences.
Yeah, that's super cool. What did you guys end up using at Gucci? Obviously, before Commerce Layer was a thing. What was the?
Yeah, the experience with Gucci was hybrid. To be clear, Gucci is not using Commerce Layer. Commerce Layer was born from that experience, but they are not using Commerce Layer today yet. But yeah, it was hybrid. Now SAP Commerce Cloud is still call it hybrid.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and you realize how much work that was, and
well,
standpoint,
a lot.
definitely inspired definitely inspired you guys. So totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the results. Evenly split, basically 40%, 40% have heard of Commerce Layer approach and want to learn more. Was probably a big reason why you joined the webinar today. So we'll definitely tell you more about that. And then another 40% of you have not heard of Commerce and are just here to learn more. Yeah, happy to kind of cover and talk about and answer any questions that you may have. So again, please use the chat or the Q&A to drop in any questions you have, and we will definitely be happy to answer those for you. All right, let's get into it. So Filippo, take us through the core concepts that a team needs to consider if they're looking at building a Jamstack site using composable commerce.
Yeah, so I'd say that migrating from a monolith to a composable stack is a journey. When you think of the promise of the composable commerce approach is to work with best of breed solutions that can fulfill each specific component of an e-commerce platform, of an e-commerce stack, with highly specialized services that can power your content, your search, your transactions, your payments, personalizations, and so on. So if you are, depending on where you are in this journey, you may want to take a progressive approach. We at Commerce Layer call it progressive decoupling approach. You start from a monolith, and then you start decoupling that monolith by introducing more specialized components. So yeah, that's at a high level. And if we want to, so the first step again is to understand which these components are, to split the monolith and to identify and isolate these components, and then starting decoupling them one by one. Yeah, I'd say that there can be many components that make your e-commerce platform, your e-commerce solution, but there are four main components that we can summarize in a front end. So for sure, there is an interaction. Talking about a website, there is an interaction. There is a layer that is the presentation layer that customers interact with. Then there is a content component, content and product discovery component. This is a very important consideration that, especially working with Commerce Layer, you have to make, because we believe that all content belongs to the content management system, including the products, including the search. All the, let's say, content and product discovery and personalization belong to this, let's say, component. And then you need a transactional layer so that provide you with prices, with stock information, with promotions, orders, customers, subscriptions, and so on. And then you need something, you need a gateway, one or more gateways to get paid and so you need to select one or more payment gateways for your business. So these four components are kind of the main components that make your composable stack. And again, there can be many others, but these are the main elements, I would say.
So what I heard is, monolithic architectures and a lot of experience that we have in the past is, it's very much like that waterfall effect where you need to figure out your requirements and design, and then you go and you do the implementation and you flip that light switch, and overnight, it's very scary, and your entire website switches over, right? But one of the big advantages of composable architectures is you don't need to do that, right? You can actually take your existing monolithic solution, whatever you're using today, like whatever hybrids that you might be using, like Gucci, and you can slowly start switching it, switching components out. And so that migration or that flipping that light switch and being very stressed out, just doesn't come with composable architectures. One of the many benefits of composable architectures. And what I also heard you say is there's really four components of e-commerce stack within composable architectures, and that's the front end, the content layer, the transactional layer, and the payment gateway. So again, you don't need to do all four of those at the same time. You can kind of work on those one at a time. Very cool. So now that we've kind of discussed those four components, can you tell me a little bit about progressive decoupling? Something I've heard a lot about. I'd love to know more about that, and and many of those audience might have that same question.
Yeah, again, to migrate, the journey that goes from a monolithic solution to a fully composable stack made of best of breed tools is a step-by-step journey. And the first step is to actually adopt a composable mindset, because apart from the technology, you need to start thinking of your solution as a composition of different solutions and highly specialized solutions. So this is the first step. Going from one monolith to two components, it's a first important step. So what's the first component that you introduce? We at Commerce Layer believe that this component should be your transactional layer, your checkout. If you're selling online, you want to start from let's say the heartbeat of your e-commerce infrastructure, which is the system that allows you to get orders from anywhere, and you want it to be as flexible as possible. You want to support different price lists for different currencies. You want to support different payment methods and payment gateways across different countries, markets, or business model, B2C, B2B, and so on. So once you have fixed, let's say, your checkout and your transactional engine, then you can go from there and add and improve your experience. And actually what you do, again, if you swap your transactional engine, your checkout from your monolith with a platform like Commerce Layer, you're not just improving the checkout of that system, of the .com website, let's say. You're adopting one checkout experience, which is omnichannel, which is headless, which means that the same checkout can be plugged into the same .com website, improving the experience and the conversions, but the same checkout experience can be plugged into other channels, other experiences that can be like marketing campaigns, can be pop-up stores, can be online, in store, or mobile apps, and so on. So again, that's why we believe that this is the first component. Start from checkout, and then iterate over your customer experience and improve the customer experience on the design, content, personalization, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of scary starting with checkout, right? That transactional layer, but I understand the immediate benefits, and sometimes you start to prove out the ROI, sooner than layer 2, which depending on the overall program budget timeline, it might be a very good thing. I'd love to hear some real customer examples that have done this. Can you talk us through a couple of those?
Yeah, for sure. First, let me also comment on on the fact that it can be scary. Well, the point is
Maybe it's just me. Scares me.
Yeah, because you typically don't want to touch your checkout. Let's say that the checkout is the most critical part. That's why it should be also the most important asset in your stack. The problem is that if you can also start with other components. Actually, some of our clients started with other components, so they and we can get to some examples. So you can start with content, and then you will realize that your checkout experience is limited. The problem is if you are running your e-commerce on a monolithic platform, then the experience, also the checkout experience in using that platform as a transactional only and as an API, let's say, first solution is limited, because these platforms are not created, with that use case in mind. So again, it's kind of the only way to progress in the right way. But again, there are you asked for some examples. I can mention some of our clients that adopted this approach. One is Chili's Bottles, which is they sell reusable water bottles based in UK and selling globally, and they did this progression starting, I think, in 2016. At the last Headless Commerce Summit, I also did a talk, and presented that case study. Another one is Brioni, the Italian luxury brand that is selling in, I think, almost 30 countries with different business models, and also adopting a truly omnichannel approach by selling their stock from the physical stores. Another one is SumUp, and they are selling the POS card readers worldwide and expanding very fastly across the globe. So yeah, these are some of the case studies that I can mention that brands that have already adopted this composable mindset and architecture.
And did they start off kind of breaking it one of those elements at a time? Like, did they start with the transactional layer?
Well, I would say that SumUp started with a transactional layer. Brioni did a big, they did a replatforming essentially from the previous platform to Commerce Layer, Contentful, Algolia. So they did it all at once because they are also the design. Chili's started with the content part. So they were running on Shopify Plus. They started enhancing the design of the website, and then they were using Shopify the headless way. and then at some point they replace Shopify with commerce layer. So again, we recommend the checkout first progression, but actually it depends on your use case. It can make sense also to start in a different way, either to do let's say, another replatforming. I would say the last replatforming, because the beauty of this approach is that even if you need to replatform, your current solution to a composable stack, that will be the last replatform that you will do, because from there, you will replace some components. You will replace the content, you will replace the commerce component, the payment gateway, and you can iterate from there. So which is scary is actually not replacing the checkout, in my opinion, is like replatforming everything, because the replatforming is a very huge, time-consuming, expensive, and dangerous process that is like taking forever, and it's putting your business at risk. Instead, when you have done this switch to a composable architecture, you de-riskify also the iterations that you take from them. It's a kind of agile methodology, applied to e-commerce, and you can be more flexible and scalable.
Flexible is a great word, because I think that's exactly right. And it's exactly what I was actually thinking about as you were talking through that. And you've calmed my fears. I am no longer scared. Those big monolithic migrations are probably definitely a lot more scary. But yeah, that flexibility with composable architectures is over a long term is one of those things that is so great about implementing a composable architecture. Speaking of which, there's, I think in our industry we like to use a lot of terms: composable, Jamstack, headless, decoupling. There's a lot of different words. What are the key differences between any of those, from your perspective and customers that you've talked to, or is it really just, it's all really interchangeable at this point? Definitely seems like composable is like taking the lead, and definitely what more people are starting to refer to.
Yeah, it's true. There are a lot of terms, there are a lot of acronyms, headless, composable, Jamstack, Mac, and so on. So I think I don't think it's matter too much about how you define this architecture. There are some differences. For example, if I take headless versus composable, and the composable approach is I see the composable approach as an evolution of headless, because the headless approach is one part, is decoupling the front end from the back end. So you're like splitting your monolith horizontally, and you separate the front end experience with the backend experience and platforms. So that's the first step. The composable approach is like taking and splitting the backend, the monolithic backend, into more components. And so this is a step forward in the flexibility, and so the composability is actually an evolution of headless. But yeah, I mean, the market is using them very often in as synonyms. I think it's fine. I mean, it's
but that's actually a good way to put it, because headless, to be honest, has been around for a long time within ERP, and it's definitely the concept of decoupling the front end from the back end. But to your point, composable then says, okay, let's talk about that back end and how it breaks down, and that flexibility from there, from an API first perspective. Cool. Let's let the Q&A. See if there's any questions. Are the slides? No, we're not using slides. You're not missing anything there. This is very much just an open conversation, and but we're happy to send some follow-up information afterwards for you to follow up on some of this information that we're talking about. Any other questions? No, I don't think so. All right, well, definitely speak up if any of this, if you need some. Oh, we got one. John, what impact does it have on the types of resources needed to support the application when you may have so many different elements making up the site? Good one.
Yeah, so first it depends on how many you need, because again, the composability starts with two elements, so you already switch from a monolith to a composable stack if you have two elements instead of one. So you decide how composable, how flexible you want to be. For sure, the ideal composable stack is using best of breed solutions for each piece of the experience, each micro experience, that can be content, commerce, search, personalization, payments, delivery, site delivery, and so on. And so it really depends on where you are in terms of company size and resources. But I believe that again, unless you are a small merchant, if you are a growing brand, you need that flexibility, and you have to start somewhere, And so I answer that you decide how composable you want to be, and which is your priority. It can be the checkout, can be the content, but let's start by splitting that monolith and take this journey.
Yeah, makes sense. Sam is asking, can we repeat those 4 elements again? Yeah, Sam, it's front end, content, transactional layer, which is that checkout experience that you can localize and customize based on prices, promotions, currencies, payment options, all that good stuff. And then the actual payment gateway itself is the 4th component. And what we are recommending is, maybe scary, maybe not, start with that transactional layer.
And let me clarify, sorry, Stephen, that with content, we are meaning also the catalog, the product content, which is often linked to the e-commerce platform. Instead, if you consider the product content as part of all other content, if you remove the separation, the distinction between editorial content and product and catalog content, you consider all part of the experience. That's what I mean essentially with the content part.
Yeah. Answers or questions are flooding in, and we have a few minutes left, so let's see if we can get through all of these. Can developers test out commerce layer before committing?
Absolutely. So you can sign up for free. You can test it with no time constraint. You can actually place real orders for free because we have a startup plan that allows you to place up to 100 orders per month for free. So it's free to test, but also free to get real orders, up to 100 orders per month.
Cool. I want to check it out. Next question. A lot of commerce platforms, even those that claim to be headless, include product catalogs or PIMs. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I think it's wrong. Because having worked with e-commerce platforms, large or small, that provide these payment catalogs, it creates a lot of issues because you have 2 types of content. You have the product content that lives in your e-commerce platform and the editorial content that lives in your CMS. So if you want to if you want to enhance also your storytelling, maybe, the product catalog is no more, the navigation, the product discovery is not just, searching for a product or browsing a product. This is part of the story, but you also want a more immersive experience, with your, again, editorial content and products that are mixed together. So I believe that, and this is how we design commerce layer, that the product and the catalog should belong to the content part, and the transactional engine should just provide the price, the availability of that product, the add-to-back button, checkout, all the data and the functions that you need to make that content, that experience shoppable.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. What methods can you use to make sure that all transactions between separate parts of application run into completion and possible problems are handled?
I think that with the separation of concerns, especially with content and commerce, and actually let me let's say something that we are investing a lot at Commerce Layer, also to that give me a good segue to answer this question. So we are bringing the composability to the front end. So when we talk about composable and Mac, we often focus on the backend composability. But then you have some backend components that are used to create, let's say, a monolithic front end, a monolithic experience. So the responsibility also of, let's say, of the fact that the price is the right price, of the add-to-back button is actually, working, is still split between the backend and the front end. By using micro front ends, which means that you can get, a web component and inject that web component into any page. In that case, Commerce Layer, can handle the full experience, and the team that is responsible of that buy button component is fully responsible of the full experience, end to end, from backend, microservice, API, and front end. So in this way, you kind of apply that button to that page, and exactly if which is the team and the platform, the component that is owning that responsibility, because it's very isolated. It's a micro experience that you control, and it's very isolated. And the same goes with the price, availability, cart, checkout. All micro front ends can be as micro as a price, or maybe bigger like the cart. But with the same approach, you can actually adopt a composable approach with a low code, the composable architecture with a low code approach that makes the also adopting and starting for the checkout much less scary.
Yeah, which you get those benefits of, again, to your point, of a composable architecture, as well as a no code, low code benefits. Okay, very cool. Is Commerce Layer taking care of all 4 aspects of the e-commerce, or is it just a layer that enables the composable architecture and then layers are enabled by other services?
Commerce Layer is the transactional engine of your composable architecture. So it's not a layer that puts together, this is Netlify, that can be used to put together different services to create an experience. Commerce Layer is the transactional engine providing prices, stock information, payments, and connecting different payment gateways to provide an end-to-end transactional engine for your stack. So we provide that component.
Yeah. So again, you're providing one of the 4 different components in the e-commerce layer, where for the content, you might use something like Contentful, payment gateway, you might want to use something like Stripe. So that's where all these are, and we have many partners, starting to get into the hundreds of partners in our ecosystem. So I would recommend going to netlify.com and going on to our tech partner directory to learn more about all of our different partners that can support these different 4 components and more. Okay, great. Do you have any recommendations for a headless CMS that works? Speaking of which, do you have any recommendations? Who are your headless CMS partners that work well with Commerce Layer?
Yeah, I would say the short answer is any. The longer answer is we are partnering with Contentful, we are partnering with Sanity, Data CMS, HighGraph, formerly Graph CMS, but also Strapi, which is, we have, these are the main CMSs that are used by our customers today.
Yeah. They're some of our favorite partners as well. And more. Can you kind of share the challenges in the data layer as we split the monolith, cache limitation, sharding, latency, some of those things that come up?
Well, for sure, each API, each service is responsible of providing the, a fast response time, high availability, and so on. So by splitting the monolith and adopting, and composing your stack with different components, you outsource that responsibility to these components. And so you want to make sure that these components can be, again, fast, reliable, and scalable as you did. So that's why you should investigate, and test. That's why we provide our platform for free to test, because we want our developers to test it and to see it. I'm a developer myself, and I don't believe in people that say something. I want to to try it myself. And so, yeah, you want to make sure that all the services that you use to compose your stack are, are up to the, to the promise of making all these pieces, and these components work well together and in a fast and scalable way. And for sure, all the partners that we have mentioned and others are great at that.
Yeah, and to that point, that flexibility and those benefits that you mentioned are all great. But one of these other questions is a good one, and that's like, isn't it really expensive to bring this all together and run a headless service? Well,
again, it depends. For sure, if you are looking to if you're looking to build the best in class, if you are buying the best in class services and you want to optimize every single pixel, every single experience, the stack can become expensive. But actually, you should compare that best of breed stack with, let's say, platforms that are more oriented to large enterprises, and I can assure you that are much more expensive. And also, you should evaluate if it's a cost or an investment, because you are investing into a new architecture, and you should evaluate the cost, the total cost of ownership, not just for the project, but for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years. And on the other side, I would say you don't necessarily need to start with everything. I take one example, Algolia, which is one of the best search engines, so which really brings you the best search experience to your website. But do you really need it? Maybe you don't need it from day one. So you decide how composable you want to be, and maybe you can start depending on your catalog, depending on your needs. Maybe you can start smaller and can compose your stack with, let's say, smaller components. And I also think that now, if you look at the partner ecosystem, of Netify and Commerce Layer, Contentful, and others, there are different options with different price points as well.
And there's a lot of open source stuff too, as well, that you can use for,
For sure.
features and different things. So again, going back to that flexibility kind of gives you that option that, if cost is a concern, which it always is, and we all operate within budgets, what you want to prioritize. And then as you start to realize some of those benefits, on the ROI front, by improved checkout experience that increases, decreases abandon rates, right, and increases your revenue, or just allowing you to launch a new product, a whole new brand faster than you did before, where in the past there's an opportunity cost. There's every day, every week, month goes by, you're leaving money on the table that you'll never recognize. Versus in a composable architecture, you're just able to move quicker and be a lot more flexible, test out things as well if that's what's needed. So a lot of those ROI benefits is what we see many of our customers start to recognize, and then that's where they really start to get excited, right? When the money starts coming in, and they look at quarter over quarter, year over year reports, and they realize that one of the big drivers was because of a composable architecture.
Yeah, and also going back to the micro frontends discussion, and offering that we are providing. So if you start with micro frontends provided by Commerce Layer, and I mean, really web components and our hosted cart, hosted checkout, hosted my account, you can really transform any website into a multi-country, multi-language, multi-everything e-commerce website with no code or low code. That's how you start. And for sure, our checkout is highly optimized. Is it's very also in terms of responsibility. We are testing it, we are measuring it and improving it every more and more. But you have always access to the underlying API. So in case you are not happy, so you start with using all our micro frontends, and you are done. Really, you can build in a day. You can go composable with Commerce Layer in a day. But if you want to control and to own the experience, the checkout experience, for example, you have always access to the underlying APIs and build and design a custom checkout experience. I think that in terms of total cost of ownership, there are two ways of making the headless approach more affordable. One is to adopt a front end as a service, like Vue Storefront, for example, like Shogun. So you can start with something that is reducing the complexity of composing your front-end experience. The other one, and this is actually what we prefer, to be honest, is also bring the composability to the front end and using and adopting a micro front-ends approach, so that you can really plug micro experiences into your front end step by step and with very low coding effort.
Agreed. We're getting some great questions, so we're just going to keep going. And we have most of the audience still on, so I want to get through as many of these questions as the audience has. This is a good one. What type of e-commerce companies are not suitable for composable architecture?
I would say there's small ones. I mean, if you're starting selling online, maybe you don't want to consider, from day one, a headless composable architecture. You may want to start with an all-in-one platform like Shopify or ecommerce, and start from there. And then as you scale, as you grow, you will realize that eventually you will hit some limitations, some roadblocks, and you will need to evaluate other alternatives. But yeah, the small merchants that are starting selling online for the first time, I wouldn't recommend going composable.
Yeah. That actually answers one of the other questions as well. How long does it usually take, in your experience, transition from a complete transition from a monolith, architecture and tools to a composable architecture and the tools within it?
So complete architecture, you mean like swapping all components? I mean, if we mean swapping all components, it can be a 3 to 4 months project, switching from a monolithic platform to a headless CMS, commerce layer, search engine, payments, and Netlify, and the delivery platform. So that's what, on average, our customers are doing.
Then at that point, kind of going back to, like, if you did start on a smaller monolithic platform, when's the right time to evaluate composable? Like, what would be a trigger point for a company, whether it's based off their size, number of products they have, the regions they're in? What would it be? What is the kind of a trigger point you think to start looking at composable?
Yeah, I think it's something that you will realize, because and the trigger point can be the flexibility, let's say the scalability or international scalability of your platform, for example. Can be the international scalability because you want the possibility to support different payment gateways for different countries, or supporting the local payment methods, and to let's say support different promotions for different markets and so on. So this kind of scalability, or maybe you're scaling to more channels. And so that's another reason why you want to go headless and composable, because you are not just limited to your .com experience, but you are expanding your business to different channels. And so that's another reason. Another one is, as we said, you have typically the e-commerce platforms are also e-commerce CMSs, but provide quite limited content management capabilities. And so that trigger can be the need to unlock, the flexibility of your design and your experience from a content and product discovery perspective.
Cool. Richard, squeezing in one last question. So this will be the last one. How would you add a customer loyalty system to the platform? Any recommendations there?
Yeah, so with Commerce Layer, we have the customer group model, and the customer group is one of the let's say resources, one of the level of flexibilities that you have to provide, for example, different prices or different promotions. So in Commerce Layer, you would create more customer groups. You'd connect one promotion to each customer group that could be like different levels, different tiers of a loyalty program. And so, for example, you could have like your silver, I use the bronze, silver, and gold example, that have 10%, 20%, 30% discount. So you attach this discount to this customer group. And then you will have, we don't manage let's say the loyalty program logic. So you do that externally, but meaning that and especially because maybe you are selling online and in store and you want an omni-channel loyalty program, not just an online loyalty program. So you have your CRM, with your CMR, you manage the loyalty program, and then you use Commerce Layer just to switch one customer from one customer group to the other, and the platform takes care of everything else. The fact that controls that you are actually that customer and unlocks that promotion for you and the checkout experience that is linked to that loyalty program. So yeah, that's how it works with our platform.
Yeah, and customer loyalty programs are so important nowadays. I just heard the stat Starbucks, like something like 50 or 55% of their sales are just through their from their loyalty members in the loyalty program, which is just insane. So, and we all have our favorite loyalty programs. Mine might be Marriott. I've been a consultant for a good chunk of my career, and very proud of my status and my points. Richard, hopefully I answered your question, and everyone else. Thank you so much to and the questions. We got through, I think, all of them. Love to continue the conversation with you. So please reach out to Filippo or myself, Stephen. Connect with us, scan the QR code, and we'd love to continue that conversation. So thank you again for everyone's time today, and Filippo, thank you for dialing in from Italy. Have a good evening.
Thank you again for having me, and thank you everybody for attending the webinar.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The recording has stopped.